Continue today, entering his first season as defensive coordinator at Tennessee and his 15th as a defensive coordinator at the FBS level, Tim Banks. We'll go right into questions.
How we doing, guys?
Start up front with Ben.
Hey, Coach, Ben McKee with VolQuest and the Swain event. I know y'all will be multiple and you're still evaluating personnel, but I'm curious if you all have kind of decided on a base defense yet.
I wouldn't tell you if we had. Yeah. No, we're going to be multiple. I mean, I don't think that's a secret. I think at the end of the day, when you're going to see two backs, multiple tight ends, then 1 week you may see all empty. I mean, I think you need to be multiple. So that's the way we're building the defense, and based on who we're playing, obviously we'll feature, one front maybe more than the other and maybe more defensive backs more than the other. So it's just really going to be based on the games.
Jimmy Himes with the Sports Animal. How many pass rushers do you think you were able to identify coming out of spring, and how many do you think you'll need this fall?
Hey, man, you guys are right after it. So, hey, we're looking for as many pass rushers as we can. We obviously, coming out of spring, we had very, very limited reps, if you will, 15, I guess, opportunities in general. We think we got some guys. We think we got a couple guys. I think we'll be unique. In terms of making sure that we're putting the guys in the right spots to give them a chance to play their skill sets. But, I think you ask any defensive coordinator in the country, they never have enough pass rushers. So, we're constantly looking for them. I think most people think they have to come from the front. Obviously if they do, that's great, but whether it's a linebacker, maybe it's a great safety or DB that can come off the edge, we're constantly trying to evaluate and find out, who our top pass rushers are.
Coach Brent Hubbs with VolQuest. You added 6 players on defense to the transfer portal that weren't here in the spring. What do you like out of that group? What are you most interested to see out of that group? And how different is your defense going to be because of that group?
Yeah, I think all of that is yet to be determined. Obviously those guys got here after spring ball, but we're excited about them. We know based on the film that we evaluated before those guys obviously came to the University of Tennessee, and based on the skill set that we saw, we thought they would provide some depth, and have some immediate impact in some cases. So I think we'll know more, obviously as we kick this thing off tomorrow, put pads on, continue to evaluate. But I think at the end of the day, we were really lacking depth, coming out of spring. So we feel like we addressed some areas that we think will benefit us well moving forward.
Hey, Tim, Patrick Brown with 24/7 Sports. Kind of piggybacking off that, Juwan Mitchell was the guy that led Texas in tackles last season. What did you guys like about him specifically? And Coach Heupel was talking about how different that room is now compared to the spring. Is it maybe a sigh of relief or a sense of relief that room is better than it was in the spring?
Yeah, it's never a relief until we get it going, but we're excited about him. Obviously, when we watched him on tape, he was a kid that, see ball, get ball type of guy. A guy that, relished in contact, but is also able to play in space. So, we're excited, from everything we understand. He had a really good camp, in terms of his level of conditioning. So, obviously a guy that's been in a fire. I think he's eager to, see how we do it here. And, I think he's really eager to, get this thing going tomorrow. So I'm excited about him. That was obviously the linebacker room was one of the rooms that we felt like we needed more depth, just some more bodies. And, he obviously provides that. And, we're excited to see him have a chance to participate with our group tomorrow.
Hey, Tim, Vince Ferrara, 99.1, the Sports Animal here in Knoxville. How do you view the nickel/star position as a defensive back in today's modern football, some of those skill sets that are important? And then, 2, who are some of the candidates you've been able to identify so far?
Yeah, that star position is super important because I think that guy has to be versatile. He has to be tough enough to be able to play the run. But he also has to be athletic enough to be able to match up against some wideouts. On top of that, depending on schematically what you're trying to do, he may have to have some different drops. So he's part linebacker, part defensive back. So it's critical, to be quite honest with you, that guy plays well, and we identify some guys that can do it. Theo comes to mind. Obviously Theo's played some snaps around here. We felt like he had a really solid spring for us. I think Slaughter's another one that it was limited a little bit in spring, but we thought we'd seen enough flashes of him that, we think he'll have an ability to play there. But to be quite honest with you, we're still moving guys around. Those guys obviously have some experience playing a position, but based on what we did in the spring and based on, our plan going into the fall, we'll have some other guys that have opportunities to compete at that spot as well.
Eric here to the right, and Jake.
Eric Kane, 99.1 The Sports Animal, and VolQuest.com. Will you have some linebackers that will play both inside and line up on the edge, like a Morvin Joseph, like a Roman Harrison?
Yeah, that's the plan. You know, if I could build a perfect defense, you'll have position flexibility at every spot. So the more, you know, our linebackers can line up at outside linebacker, the more our outside linebackers can line up at inside linebacker, I think the better it is for us. You know, we want to be able to play offense on defense. You know, and the only way to be able to do that is if those guys don't know exactly what they're getting from snap to snap. So we're definitely trying to evolve in that area, you know, and we feel like we have some guys and some candidates that we think fit that bill. But obviously, again, as I keep saying, you know, we'll find out tomorrow as we get this thing going.
Coach, Jake Nichols with Sports Illustrated Volunteer Country. Can you speak a little bit more to the depth that you've got at DB with corner and safety and just kind of the wealth that you have there?
The wealth. That's a good word. Listen, man, I think we have some experience back there and some guys that have obviously played a little bit. But at the end of the day, it's a new year, a new system. You know, we felt coming out of spring that, you know, we didn't have quite enough depth, you know, but obviously having a couple of portal guys come into our program and come into the fold, we feel like we've established, you know, some depth. Now, what that depth looks like, you know, is yet to be determined, you know, because, again, you just don't know. You got to see how guys react to the system, the guys that just got here, obviously. We're moving guys around constantly to make sure they're in the right position. So do we feel like we have some bodies? Absolutely. You know, we're excited about those guys. But at the end of the day, the way we start tomorrow might not necessarily be how we end or how we start going into Bowling Green.
Hey, Trey Wallace, Rocky Top Insider. What have you seen from Jeremy Banks this summer? Didn't get a lot of work in the spring, but from a leadership role, being in the film room, how would you assess him going into fall camp?
Yeah, you know, our strength coaches, I think, did a really good job along with our medical staff, you know, just getting him, you know, obviously put back together and, you know, giving him an opportunity to be in the best shape of his life. So I'm excited about him. You know, I really am. You know, he's a kid who loves football, craves football. And we're really, truly looking forward to watching him, you know, create a role in our defense. So he's been outstanding in terms of his preparation to this point, and we're looking forward to, you know, watching him take the next step as we begin camp tomorrow.
Stay here on the left, Vince, then Adam.
With you guys being so multiple defensively, how do you view the defensive line in terms of inside, outside end, inside the tackle? I know you guys will do some different things, but how versatile do you want your linemen to be able to go to those different positions and different schemes?
Yeah, like I said earlier, you know, and I'm not telling you that all of them will be able to do that. You know, I don't know if that's realistic, you know, but the more that can, I think the better it is for all parties involved. To be able to play outside or play defensive end and be able to slide inside, that brings nothing but value, right? You know, and obviously, you know, the chances of a guy going from inside to outside is slim, but you never know in some cases, depending on the personnel group that you may see. So I just believe in versatility, you know, and that's what we're trying to develop, you know. But obviously, as coaches, I think it's our job to put everybody in the best position to be successful. You know, we're obviously going to play to their strengths, whatever that is. But if we were able to do it exactly how we want to do it, we want those guys to be able to play outside and inside, or outside to inside if we can.
Adam Sparks, News Sentinel. How essential is depth to your system? Are you flexible in terms of rotation? Do you have to go deep? Can you be thin and play as well?
Yeah, I think it's critical, you know, in this day and age, you know, with the high octane offenses you're going to see, you know, ours in particular, and just some of the ones we're going to face. I think you need to be able to have as much depth as you possibly can. But plus, I also think it's good for morale. You know, the more guys have roles, you know, the more ownership they have within the program. But at the end of the day, you know, you get what you earn. You know, we're not going to put a guy out there if he hasn't earned it. But, you know, if guys have earned the right to get out there and help UT win, you know, then we're going to do everything in our power to get those guys out there to give us that chance. But I think you need depth in this day and age to be able to be successful against, you know, the high octane offenses you're going to see week in and week out.
What have you seen from Kamal Haddon and Brandon Turner since they arrived? Are they strictly corners, or will you try to move them around?
Yeah, I think their backgrounds are both from a corner perspective, you know, but again, as we get in camp and we get a chance to legitimately evaluate those guys, I think we'll know more in terms of, you know, where they'll play and where they fit. But they've worked. You know, our strength coaches have been very pleased with the direction that those guys are headed, you know, in terms of their preparation and how they attack the summer workouts. So we're very eager to see how they attack, you know, camp. So we'll see.
Coach, I got two questions. One is you talked about high-octane offense. do you think going against a high-octane offense in practice every day benefits your defense in some way?
I surely hope so. I really do. I think so. Obviously when you see teams and they're doing something that you're not familiar with, that's always a challenge, But I think every offense that we're going to see, has some form of fastball in their arsenal, whether they use it week in and week out, that's debatable. But I don't think you can play offense in this day and age without having some of that in your package. So I think the fact that we'll see it, daily, hopefully will pay dividends for us as we get going.
And secondly, you talked about versatility at the linebacker spot. How important is it to have linebackers that can not only stop the run, but play pass defense?
Again, it's everything. As we stated earlier, everyone wants to make it a space game. And obviously if the backers want to play, which, I've coached linebackers for many years, and I know those guys are, tough and hard-nosed and, typically the heartbeat of your defense. So, those guys have evolved over the years. Typically if you're playing in this day and age, they have to be able to, cover a back out of the backfield, be able to reroute a slot or a shifty guy out in space and tackle guys out in space. So it's super important that those guys, have the ability to play in space, if you will.
Going back to kind of that high-octane offense that you said that you'll be facing every day in practice, with these new guys coming in, with Brandon and Juwan and some of those guys, have you told them about what you've seen from Josh Heupel's offensive system and kind of the speed they can expect in practice?
Yeah, I don't think they need me to tell them. I think their teammates have told them all they need to know about that. So they'll see it. Obviously those guys worked out this summer and, had a chance to, go against the offense a little bit on their own. So hopefully they have an idea, what it looks like. But, once we get going and, we obviously have calls and different change-ups and things of that nature, and those guys being able to adjust and make calls, on the field, I think will be really the test for those guys. But those guys are competitors. We wouldn't have taken them if we didn't think those guys could find a role, somehow, some way here. And we're looking forward to see if that comes to fruition.
Coach, as you wrapped up spring and you assessed 15 practices and now you get ready to kick off fall camp, based off that assessment, what's the biggest priority for your defense this first part of fall camp? Is it pace of play? Is it retaining? What's your biggest priority for your unit?
Yeah, I think you said it was two things. What does our recall looks like, based on those 15 practices we had and now the 16 going in? What does that look like? Do they still understand the base and the fundamentals that we put in? And then the second thing is creating depth. We need to find out, who are our, top guys and how they fit. So, again, as everyone has noted earlier, we got a couple guys that are new to the program. We got to find out in a hurry, how they fit. Some of the things obviously coming out of our exit interviews when our players leaving the spring, we had some things that we identified as strengths and weaknesses. We want to see how well they've improved on them going into camp. But ultimately, we're trying to see what our recall looks like, which will determine how much more we can put in terms of our package in, and then obviously making sure that we got guys in the right spots moving forward. Yeah, I would say, we put in all of our base, our base fundamentals, our base defense. Now you start to get into more of your sub packages and different things of that nature going into the fall.
John Adams, Knox News. Tim, we talk a lot about wide open offenses now, but in this division, there are a number of teams that can really line up and run the ball. Georgia's 5 deep at running back. South Carolina has a great running back. You go on and on. Pretty good offensive lines, too. Do you think you have enough depth in the defensive front to hold up over a course of a 12-game season?
Yeah, I think that's a $1 million question. I think that's what we're going to work toward. We obviously have some bodies. We have some guys that have played, but we also have a lot of youth and a lot of unknowns at that position. So, but that's what makes it fun. We're excited about the challenge. I know our front is excited about the challenge. And again, I think as I stated earlier, from week to week it changes. You name some teams that run it really well or have the ability to run it well, and obviously there's going to be some offenses that can throw it. So, it's our job, week in and week out to make sure we have the best package possible put together for these guys to give them a chance to be successful, and, we're going to do that.
Last 2 questions, Vince, then Eric.
First chance to talk to you since recruiting opened up earlier this summer. What's your experience been like recruiting for the University of Tennessee now that you can do a lot of the normal things in recruiting and going into your first season?
Yeah, I mean, it's been awesome. Obviously, we have a great conference to sail, and we got a great university to sail with great traditions. So it's just been great. Obviously, I think, every coach that you ask would say they miss, the interaction, with the recruits and the coaches and things of that nature. And having a chance to get back to that was a breath of fresh air. So it's not hard to sail this program because there's a lot of great things to sail. And I think as we continue to go and, get out there and play some games and continue to recruit, I believe we'll start to, see some dividends being cashed in on that.
You might not have had a chance to talk about this with your defense just yet. That might be something coming up in camp. But I was wondering, individual goals per game. Do you have some of those, and what might some of those goals be?
To win. Yes, that's number one goal. We want to win. We want to find a way to do our part to make sure that at the end of the day that UT is successful. Whatever that looks like, week in and week out, we don't know, but we obviously have some core fundamentals and some beliefs that we have that we think are critical to us playing great defense. But ultimately, our number one goal was just to win, and that's how we start everything and that's how we end everything. What do we need to do to win?
Thank you, Coach.
All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.